Oh my God.
I can't even.
Oh my God.
She's beautiful, frankly.
I have no words. I have a jersey.
What would I do if I owned a Ferrari?
Where are we going? That was like the coolest thing I've ever done in my entire life.
Today we finally get to announce to the world it's time to meet our all-star.
Here we go. Happy Friday, all. It is, well, I would say it's update time, but it's going to be a really short update. So when you can hear me, thumbs up, and then I'll start filling you in on why it's going to be a short update.
Sound is good.
Cool. So the reason it's a short update today, Tyler's been sick for a couple days. We have a few other people down. I am hip deep in Seattle stuff, and so no written update, and this update is going to be very short here too. Now the good news, and it's only good news. Our team that started at 1 out at Seattle only a few months ago is now up to 4. We hope to have 2 offers going out, either maybe 1 today, if not, hopefully 2 early next week, and maybe 2 more offers as well, depending on those how those 2 go next week as well. We've been busy. I've been busy. It's been lovely. Again, don't want to get on the hype train. Promised you I wouldn't do that. But starting with nobody more than a year ago, then 1, now 4, and hopefully I would like to see us at 6 within the next few weeks, would be a pretty awesome thing for the studio and a very awesome thing, obviously, for the game. I've talked in the past about the impact that the guys out there have already been having. Well, imagine now we double that team and double it as well with really good people. We're not looking for people who don't have a lot of experience. We're not looking just to put bodies in seats. We're being really picky about who we're adding to that team, just as we've been picky about the people we add here. So hopefully you folks will forgive me and forgive us for the lack of substantive update today, but that's one of the very good reasons why not. In terms of other things we have been doing here, rehabilitation still moving along well. I'll know in the next 2 hours whether we're going to have another weekend test. JB is hard at work getting some improvements to the grouping system in, and that's what we'd like to focus on this weekend. So I'll let you know. Hopefully you'll have everything in time for a test, and if so, you'll see an email from us at the very end of the day. Everything else is also moving along really well. You've seen the work in the game. We have really been making the kind of progress that you folks have wanted to see for a while. And the extra people is certainly helping. And so I shouldn't call them extra, the Seattle people, because they're not extra. The Seattle people are certainly helping. So yeah, again, sorry it's short, but it's all good. Nothing bad to report other than the last poor Tyler who's been sick and a few folks down today. But other than that, it's all great. We are very happy with the current state of the team, the current state of the game, and for the folks who are in the tests last week. You saw how just beautifully the multi-server tech was working, and we will have improvements to that as well over the next couple weeks. Yeah, again, I've got nothing. I've got absolutely...
We do have a newsletter coming out.
Oh, that's right. Yes, we do have a newsletter coming out. Thank you, Max. We do have a newsletter coming out shortly, as a matter of fact, soon after we get done with this. So, and that's full of lots of information. A really good column from Ben as well on rehabilitation and the process that we go through with this game. So, very informative reading, some great screenshots, some nice thank yous to people. But yeah, folks, another really good week. I wish Tyler was here so we could have gotten at least a top 10-ish list done. But I've been swamped all day, and so yeah, a good swamped, a really good swamped. So that's it. Let's go to Q&A session.
All right, so give us your best questions for MJ. We're going to play the Q&A video.
Who are you? Turn the stove off. Did I hear a dog?
You like my shirt?
When are this?
Is this my spleen?
Now it is time to answer some questions.
And, okay, so... Forced Chaos. This is becoming my usual question. Are Beta 1 people going to be in this weekend or no?
If we have a grouping test, I would very much like to have the Beta 1s actually in it, so we can beat up on the system more. If things go well, what it will be is no abilities, just grouping. Making groups, leaving groups, all that sort of stuff. Really stress it out. Obviously, grouping is a kind of important thing to this game. Not the most exciting test, I know, but this is another one of those foundational things. Once the grouping tech is in and really working well, we get guilds from it. We get the next pass of groups as well from it. And being able to test it when we have a lot of players coming in and out and forming groups, again, disbanding groups, not the most exciting thing, I know, but really, really helpful really, really helpful thing for you folks to beat on. And that would be great if you can join us. We'll let you know as soon as we can.
Odelvik asks, was Skynet a sneaky way of saying you're working on a new sky filled with comets, winged creatures, and such like? Any other clues?
No. I know that in terms of my somewhat esoteric or at times cryptic answers, this is something you might have to do a lot of, serious thinking about, but it's there.
Rahalden asks, there's already a user story card about more payment options in the store, and investigate alternative methods is checked as well. So how is the plan for alternative payment options coming along?
Excellent. We've been in very close communication with the folks at Stripe, and so that's something we hope to add in the near future. And then we're also reaching out to other folks who could work with us, especially for you European backers and future backers. We know there are things like PaySafe card, obviously Amazon Payments works over there, as well as other options. The US is pretty covered with PayPal and Stripe, but we certainly would like additional options, especially for you Europeans who have some different ways of paying that are less common here, but far more common there. So we absolutely want to move forward with it. Again, we are moving forward already with Stripe, and we are talking to other folks as well.
Fubu asks, on the Camelot Unchained Dragon Con 2016 video, it mentions a minimum of 21 races. This seems like more races than have been mentioned previously. Could this be? Or has a child of Loki cast a mischievous spell upon me?
I honestly don't remember where we left it off the top of my head with the various stretch goals. So we'd have to check to be sure. Might have been 18, might have been 21. I wish I could spit that out of memory or pull that out of memory. But here's the thing. For us, races are actually really easy to add. And I've talked about this before. Stretch goals for them are very easy stretch goals. Mainly because we are not building a ton of racial specific weapons and armors. You folks know that. We're not looking to do that. So while that would be a bigger problem for a lot of games, for us adding more races really isn't. And so that's something I want to continue to play with, certainly over the next, the next number of months, how many months that turns out to be, before we, go live. I love races. I love options for players, and especially again in this game where we don't have to worry about having a huge set of armor and weapons for each race. It becomes much cheaper and easier for us to do that, and I like that.
Guinness asks, what type of programmers make up the new West Coast devs? How is George enjoying the new friends?
Very much. He likes the fact that now he has more company out there. In terms of what kind of programmers, the same kinds we're looking for here: 2 arms, 2 legs. Though if they have 4 arms, that would be great. We're not biased that way. Same kind of requirements: C#, C++. They can be, frankly, almost anything from gameplay, network, graphics, client-side stuff. We have a very good mix of candidates that will definitely, if we got all of them, would fill all of the slots that we need to fill, certainly in the short term. If we ended up with 6 programmers out there, that would be pretty cool. Going from 1 to 6 in a fairly short amount of time for a studio our size, that's a pretty good accomplishment. And certainly more than fulfills what our original goals were for a number of programmers on the team.
Jahan asks, with encumbrance, how is Siege moved around?
Oh, that's what obviously some of the bigger and stronger players are for. That's what caravans are for. The whole point is you won't be able to carry around your own catapult, especially not your typical player. So there are some logistics involved here. On the other hand, we also have a magical world, so we are willing to make some, I wouldn't call them compromises, but just make things fit a little bit better with the world. So, at the end of the day, what's important is that it's fun for the players. And if you can't have a siege because the logistics were just too much for most people to manage, then that's no fun. On the other hand, it's also no fun if you spent a lot of time building up the defenses of your keep, and then all of a sudden a bunch of players come and they open their packs and 30 catapults come out. That's not a lot of fun either. So we'll find a good balance.
Tanzatanta asks, will divine interventions / death curses auto-activate on death?
Depends what you mean by auto-activate. Do you mean you don't have to do anything? You just set them and then it happens? If that's what you mean, probably not. We want them to be something that you decide to do as you're dying. So I don't think you will be able to just, hey, my death curse today is whatever, and then when you die it auto-activates. That would go sort of against the spirit of what a death curse is supposed to be.
Tolf asks, What is planned to happen to the built structures on the islands when the enemy is deploying stabilizers?
So, couple things. Your structures, depending on what kind of structures, if they have stabilizers within them, are there also to counteract the effect of other stabilizers. On the other hand, if an island has shifted from being owned by one realm and is now shifting to that of the other realm, those plots still need to be taken. And then when they are taken by the other side, they can do whatever they want. The stabilizers from that point on also would be trying to move the island to the next nearest island that belongs to your realm. So is it possible that your building could be floating away towards the enemy on a plot that now you still own but belongs to another realm? Absolutely. But keep in mind, you need to own the majority, and what that number is, we certainly don't know yet, of that island before the stabilizers would kick in that way.
Odilvik asks, would Lady J say you are easy or hard to get birthday presents for? P.S. Belated happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. I guess hard. Part of the problem is that I am not hugely a thing guy. Like, I'm always looking for the newest thing. So that makes it hard. On the other hand, after being together as long as we have, she has a pretty good idea of what I like. So I think that makes it generally a lot easier. But yeah, not being a thing guy and not always rushing to get new of anything, other than I do have a tendency to like coats, does, I think, make it a little bit more challenging at times.
Carlitos Wayleet asks, any news about new community manager? Is CSE looking?
You mean you want to know if I will want to say hello to my new friend? Sorry. A little friend. Almost had the quote right. Are we looking right now? No. Will we be looking soon? Yes. The reason we're not looking now is, quite frankly, that we have other things that are a higher priority. And if we brought in a new community manager, that we would also have to ramp that person up. And right now, I don't have the time. I really don't. So it takes less time for me to do some of the things that Genesee did, and Tyler's helping out, and Max is helping out, than it would to ramp somebody up. Now, we know, and I have no intention whatsoever of going into live without a community manager. That would be really dumb. But right now, our focus, frankly, is not only building the game, but continuing to build the team on the programmer side. So, we want to get one. We absolutely know we need one, but it's not a focus right now, because those interviews would take time, and potentially flying out people takes time, and we have enough for now higher priority things to focus on.
Rocket Mist asks, thanks again, MJ, for doing this. Do you think CU will have in-game tournaments? Any ideas to spice up certain times of the year?
Yeah, absolutely. We've spoken in the past that we don't want dueling as a general thing for everyone to do, but tournaments are something entirely different. Yeah, I think they could be great fun. I think we can do them well, and it's something I certainly would like to do going forward.
Odilvik asks, any plans to allow crafters to create charged items such as wands, staffs, etc., that would allow attuned players to activate a wand of fireballs?
Yeah, that's a classic, isn't it? The whole fireball wand from D&D. Sure, I would love something like that. Is it something that we've talked about in the past? Yes. Is it something that we'll have in the game? Don't know yet. That's one of those conversations Ben and I need to have as we get further and further down the road with not the not important items, but the secondary list, because most of your magic and abilities need to come from you, not your item. But down the road, could we have some classics in there? Sure, that'd be fun.
Paladin Brewer asks, how do you plan on pushing the lore and realm class race storylines with the absence of PvE?
Oh, we're just going to make you read all of it before you get to play the game.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, you know that annoying toss that my games always have, sometimes with multiple clicks? Yeah, that's the new thing. You're just going to have to read everything I've written, then everything Max has written, and anything other people have written. No, certainly we're going to push it in the more expected ways on websites and things like that. We also have some ideas how to incorporate it into the new user experience in a way that's not a total pain in the ass. So, I think there's some clever things we can do as long as we don't force lore on the player. I'm happy with. So,
Rocket Mist asks, can islands that are neutral be built on by all three factions?
yes.
Let's see. Ask us more questions, folks. Having a discussion.
Or not, and I'll get back to other phone call or other conversations I have to have, which would be phone calls.
Okay, here's one. Paladin Brewer asks, if you capture a structure, are we able to blueprint the whole or part of it, or only our original creations?
I think that's the first time anyone's actually asked me that question. Nice question. So, as a basic rule, you blueprint what you build. Now, could more experienced builders take blueprints of other structures? Yeah, I think that is a good thing to have. But the basic rule is you build it, you blueprint it, mainly because we want to reward those builders who build great structures. And if all you had to do was go to your neighbor's, yard and go click and have a blueprint of his structure, that would certainly hurt the role of builders in the game.
Sakurix asks, are you going to have a raid system in CU?
Sakurix, you know the answer to that.
Das Let's Play Shoff asks, will there be a few bigger random mobs you can kill?
Oh, absolutely. That's something we've talked about right from the beginning. We've been very clear that having no PvE leveling doesn't mean there's no PvP in the game. So whether it's the depths or other places, we've been very clear that there will be things to do that don't involve just killing players. So yes, there will be big creatures in the world, and there will be tough creatures in the world, and sometimes there'll be both. We need guards, obviously. We need things in the depths. You won't level off them, but you'll be able to fight, kill them, and depending on what they are, you could benefit by it. But you will not be leveling up your character.
Rahalden asks, will NPCs in towns and cities be static or stand in the same place, or are they moving to make the place more lively?
Oh, we certainly want them more lively. Luckily we have one person already who loves AI and might have another. So, yeah, I would certainly love to see these guys, have patrols and things to make it feel, more like a living, world as opposed to a game.
Nanulok asks, when is MJ going to take a few days off so he can get some of his writing done?
Actually, at the end of it's almost October. Yes, the end of the this coming month. Going to be taking off some time to celebrate an anniversary.
Thontanos asks, about how long after launch do you think food and drink will be implemented, and will you add a fatigue system to make it necessary?
As to when, I don't know. It's certainly something that we've never promised. Is it something I would like to have in the game? Absolutely. Would we make it something that would help players? Maybe. But if we make it something that can help players, then it becomes sort of mandatory in people's mind. And then we get to the whole POTS notion back with Dark Age, as well as other games. So I could see it being in the game. I could absolutely seeing it be in the game for fun. You know, the whole alcohol thing is always amusing. I could see it being useful for some just weird effects of certain food and drink. I don't know how far we'll go with it, though, honestly. And I am very afraid of putting in something like that afterwards that would require people, whether we think it's required, but you folks do, to go into RVR unless you're fully equipped, you know, with the corner bakery strapped to your back to help you after you do battle.
Tolf asks, are building plots predetermined, or can you choose a place if you just meet the prerequisites as distance to the next plot, etc.?
Yeah, that's one of the things we've talked about. Certainly in the safe area, you know, your city and the any surrounding area, plots will be 100% determined by us. In terms of the other areas, that's one of the things we're, you know, talking about. My gut is they're going to be broken down by us into different plots you can own, only because players might take advantage of a truly open system to really screw up the map, so that players who want to get a plot won't be able to get any good plots because either the other players have not only taken the plots but put them in such an arrangement that they can't even claim anything within a certain arrangement. And if you just think about it as moving, you know, squares along, you know, or hexes or whatever shape you want, circles, you know, around a giant map, I think you can understand, you know, what I'm trying to say. But we'll see. I can see the argument for both sides. The only side that I guarantee will win is the side that says that in the safe lands, you know, all plots will be laid out by us. That's just one of those non-negotiable things.
Odelvik asks, how will players interact with NPCs? Click and select a response, text input with keywords, or something else?
Well, certainly in the beginning it will be as simple as possible. So whether it's text or, you know, click, will really depend on, by the time we launch, how many NPCs and how much true interaction there is. If we feel that there's a lot of interaction, we'll want a more complicated or more robust system. Excuse me. On the other hand, if there's only very little interaction with NPCs, then we can have a simpler system. We'll see.
Do you want to keep going for a bit?
Yeah, a couple more minutes.
All right. Baka Yolo asks, will you use NVIDIA turf effects?
Yeah, so we spoke to NVIDIA when they were here about that. Right now, that's not what we're looking at doing, mainly because in order to have turf effects, you have to have a certain grass system, which we don't have. But the first thing we're looking at, and this has been our plan for a while, or the next thing we're looking at, excuse me, is WaveWorks. So we may have something to talk about with that, you know, in the coming days.
Mia Tallis asks, why is there a Christmas tree behind the couch?
Yeah, this is our Christmas palm tree. One, because we think it looks cool, and two, it was given to us by the building. They had an event and they were going to throw out the tree, and they thought, hey, Instead of throwing out to the tree, what about those crazy guys and gals from City State who like lights and other things in their office? Christmas palm tree. It's now part of the, absolutely part of what makes us CSE.
The decor. Tanzatante asks, will we be able to raid storages from other realms we've conquered?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, that's something I've talked about. And before people, immediately go off into panic and go, oh, that means I'm going to lose all my stuff. No, we've talked about this, before. This is the same thing before the Kickstarter, during the Kickstarter, after the Kickstarter. So, as always, folks, don't panic.
Guinness CU says, I know Stormwatches have not been fleshed out yet. Any new tidbits you can comment on?
No, because we haven't, frankly, there has been nothing that we have discussed regarding Stormwatches in a while. Mainly because it's not tech we're worried about. It really isn't. Building a very special building within these areas, it's not a concern. It really isn't.
Paladin Brewer asks, is there new information on the actual viability of using an assortment of weapons? For example, if I want to dual wield on my Fianna, would that just be completely ridiculous?
Not sure why you think it would be completely ridiculous, honestly. It's a question of whether the Fianna have the ability to dual yield as opposed to just the, you picking up two weapons. Obviously, if you have an ability that is geared to dual wielding, then you'll be better at it. It's the same reason why we've said mages can use weapons, and not just your typical mage weapons. You can pick up anything. Whether you're any good with it is a whole different story.
Doc Gonzo asks, will there be specific buff classes, or will all classes have a specific buff?
Just like conversation regarding healers, not everyone can heal. Not everyone is going to be able to buff. That, in our mind, cheapens the classes. So, yeah.
Saccharex asks, are scenarios / battlegrounds something you might add down the line for your game?
Same thing we've said also since the Kickstarter. The only place that battlegrounds for now have in the game are for newbies. We've said this before, during, after the Kickstarter. This is an open world game. We want to use battlegrounds potentially, for the new players. Could we use them for special events? Possibly. But we don't see them playing a role in the main game. That's not what you're signing up for. You folks are signing up to play in an open world MMO where almost everything in the world is fair game. The safe cities and the land that surrounds them are the exception.
Clawherb asks, can you imagine making the game in the Spanish language?
Yeah, well, we could, but we would suck at Spanish, so I don't know how we would program in it. Sorry. I know what you mean, of course, that, will we localize it in Spanish? I'd love to. I actually had 7 years of Spanish. So I have a fondness for the language. But yes, absolutely. I think that being able to localize to such a large market is certainly a very, very good thing. And so, yeah, love to be able to do that.
Negative Zero asks, can you add trenches / drawbridges to your keeps to make them hard to infiltrate by enemies? Can the environment be used as an advantage when building a keep?
Yeah, I'll answer the second part first, which is can the environment be utilized smarter by players? And the answer is absolutely yes. Will we allow the digging of trenches? A little more complicated, mainly because if you allow the digging of trenches, do you also allow the ability to sap and to dig underground? So that's a bit more challenging. Not technically challenging, because obviously Minecraft did it through a Java browser or through Java in a browser. So it's not like we don't know how to do that. The more challenging issue is really design. And once you allow people to dig in a normal way underground, that opens up just an entire kettle of worms design-wise. So, do I think you'll be able to use the terrain to your advantage? Yes. Do I think you'll be able to deform terrain to increase your advantage? Yes. Will that involve digging trenches or being able to sap? Probably not for the latter, probably for the former. So you can have, a deformed part of your map that looks like a trench, acts like a trench, even if it wasn't dug like a trench.
Rocket Mist asks, any progress on siege engines recently or coming up?
Coming up. It's one of our beta, 1 items, and thanks to the new ability system, it is so much easier to create a working siege engine. So yes.
F. Moshi asks, if there are poisons in the game, is there any plan for ones that apply long-term debuffs, or will they mostly be on a shorter time frame?
Oh no, long-term debuffs and poisons kind of fit together, don't they? So yes, I would very much like to have a robust poisoning system in the game. We'll just have to see.
Tonic DK has a question about blueprints. What do you think of the idea that the builder being able to sell their blueprints, like a nice tower, etc., to make a fort? What about the idea that players won't be able to re-blueprint that tower, and people can't expand upon the blueprint? A modular approach that respects the original builder's IP, if you will.
Yeah, we've talked about that actually, but even I think we talked about before the Kickstarter, but we certainly talked about it during the Kickstarter, that I'd love to see a system and an economy where the builders are doing just that. Now, the trickier issue, of course, is the modular system, mainly because it's not tricky in how to put one module on top of another, but what gets tricky is if all of a sudden you now have tens of thousands of people playing this game, all of whom decided that they want to file different blueprints for things that are only slightly different. And then you got to go into some fairly serious math to figure out how one blueprint is close to another one. Because you certainly don't want humans trying to approve that. So expect a system where you can absolutely blueprint something and sell it to other backers, not for real money. This has got to be in-game stuff. Beyond that, I honestly don't know.
I Am for Snitchel asks, will using different materials in a structure have any advantages, for example, for stability or general realm pride, etc., over just building a giant stone cube?
Sure, absolutely. That's part of it. If we're going to have a lot of materials in this game, if we are going to encourage people to be builders and crafters, the idea that every bit of stone is the same as every other bit of stone sort of goes against what we're doing here. So, yes, absolutely. And for those who are worried, oh my God, that's such a technical challenge, it isn't. It really isn't. The way the crafting system is already laid out, it's just a matter of creating, frankly, another piece of art and a little bit of data. It isn't at all a challenge.
Thraxter says, when might you finish Founder Points? I would like to give you more money, but would like more details first. Thanks.
Sure. Founders Points will end before the game goes live. We've talked about that from the beginning. As to a specific date, there'll be plenty of warning. In terms of more details, we've been very clear with you folks that we're not ever gonna try to treat you guys and gals as walking wallets. And I know that runs counter to a whole bunch of other Kickstarted games. I don't care. Yes, we are certainly leaving some money on the table by not trying to do that. But I made a promise, and I intend to keep it. When we are in beta, when we have the team that is large enough to deliver this game on a tighter schedule than we've been certainly on now, when I am confident enough that I can say to you, as people who have already backed the game, that, okay, you've been asking for this for a while, now I am so confident about dates and confident about team size that we'll put up some other options, then I'll be willing to talk about it. But until then, it feels like a money grab if I do that. And that's not what we're about. We've been very clear that we appreciate you folks' support and your patience with the delays. And I am not about to violate that or, misuse that trust by all of a sudden going, hey, come on, guys, I've got some great new things for you to buy. No. Let us get into beta. Let us show you everything we've been working on. Let us continue to not only earn your trust, but prove that we're always going to do things the right way. For example, expansion in Seattle.
Feral Law asks, will there be any NVIDIA-specific client-side stuff that might hurt performance on AMD GPUs? And if so, will we be able to turn them off?
Yeah, well, okay, so it's a little bit more complicated. So according to NVIDIA, nothing they do should hurt AMD cards. If that was the case, certainly we would make sure we would turn it off. The other thing to keep in mind is we're supporting NVIDIA right now. They're a great partner. We've worked with them for a long time. But we are also, and NVIDIA knows this, we're going to tune the game for AMD folks as well. We just don't have the engineers to do both at the same time. This is nothing that NVIDIA has asked us to do. This is nothing that's even an under-the-table thing. It's just, well, what are we going to focus on? We're going to focus on the one we chose right from the beginning, the one that has given us access to all the source code, that we need to help get things not only in the game, but to take it to another level like PhysX. Now, the great news is, especially with PhysX, that since it's server-based, it doesn't care, what card you're running on. It doesn't matter if you're on an AMD or on an NVIDIA card or, Intel, for gosh sakes. It's all server-based. It's irrelevant what your client is at that point. So, yeah, we'll make sure that not to in any way screw over, or maybe blunt, really screw over our AMD folks. And NVIDIA has never hinted, asked, winked, that they would like us even more if we did something like that. That would be terrible, and I wouldn't do it. So, yeah, nothing to worry about. It does mean you have to be a little more patient, because sometimes, if we can get answers from NVIDIA very quickly, we can fix things a little more quickly, but that's obviously going to change as we get through beta, and we can get more support, from AMD when we have to ask questions, which fortunately isn't as often. And the other thing is, because we get drops from NVIDIA of cards, we also have a wider range of cards to test on, which is a very good thing.
Sherikor asks, will it be possible to 1vx in this game, or is PvP based mostly on group play instead of individual skill?
This is one of those questions I've been answering forever. But don't worry about it. It's a perfectly fine question. No, we wanted to support it being RVR, to support everything. Obviously, there'll be some things you won't be able to be very good at if you're playing by yourself. For example, taking down a keep. On the other hand, there's going to be plenty of things you can do solo and plenty of targets in the world that you can go after, whether it's PvP targets in terms of players or PvP targets in terms of structures and things. But the end of the day, if you want to take a castle, yeah, you pretty much have to be in a group.
Paladin Brewer asks, any chance server names will be the same as Daok for people wanting to meet up with old friends?
Sorry. Not that those names are trademarked, copyrighted, or anything like that, but that would be a sign of disrespect to the game. And I wouldn't do that. Whatever my feelings are about certain people, Dark Age of Camelot was a fabulous game. And it was made by a really great team. And so, doing something like that would really be disrespectful. And I've spent my whole career, obviously, not being terribly disrespectful to anybody. Just focusing on what we have to do, which has always been to make great games. So I wouldn't start with something like that. Like I said, that would be wrong.
Odilvik asks, I know fast travel is limited in RVR, but are there any plans to have BSC fast travel in the safe zone? I'm thinking trains, rope slides, bobsleds, etc.
Bobsleds would be cool. So first, 5 minutes, because I'm starting to lose my voice, and I've got more calls today, so I want to not sound crappy when I get on the phone. So we'll wrap this up. Could there be fast travel in the safe zones or safe city? Faster, yes. We've talked about roads to begin with. So that by default means there is faster travel. If you mean by fast travel, instant travel, still, my opinion is generally not. I don't see how instant travel works in the live game. Certainly in beta we'll have a bunch of it, because it would be really silly to make you guys and gals, when we have limited time for testing, if we need you to get to certain places quickly to do things in the test, we certainly would want to not make you have to spend all that time walking. But in the real, live game, again, expect faster travel, absolutely confirmed. Again, and I've said this in the past, instant travel, again, I would have to see a heck of an argument for why we should allow instant travel, especially outside the safe lands. Could we have it, I guess, for housing, maybe, like if you were, depending on how big the safe land ends up being for people's homes, and we don't want that as well as separate instances. Could we possibly allow that? Maybe, because that really doesn't affect anything game-wise. If you walked to a certain part of the map, and then we have this big housing area, and you might have a way to get to your home very quickly. But we'll see. But not in the main game. Certainly not.
I Am for Snitchel asks, any plans on implementing left-handed characters into the game? And if it will have an impact on combat?
Yes, to both. We'd like to be able to have that, at some point.
Nanulak asks, I want new CU merchandise for Christmas presents. Will there be any available before Christmas?
Probably not, but we'll see. That's one of the things that I do wish we had a community manager here for, so he or she could get some of that done. But we'll see. I doubt it, though. I don't want to rush something into a store just to take advantage of Christmas, as nice as the extra money would be. Obviously, things did not go the way we had hoped with our former partner, and I want to make sure that this time, it does not go that way. So while we might be showing off some designs, you've seen obviously our new shirt, and we like that. I don't know if we will have the time to try to get something into production, and mainly distribution. Production would be not that challenging, but getting the right distribution set up, especially for our folks in Europe, that's more the challenge.
All right. Das Let's Play Schaff asks, when CU is released, will there be a programming break, or will you just work on more expanding features?
Oh, I think, anyone who's been part of an MMO launch knows that after the game launches, you really need a break, and that's the worst time to take a break. So I would love to be able to say that the moment we launch, a whole bunch of us could take a vacation, but that's when, the next level of work starts. Because all of a sudden, we have all of our backers and now new players paying for the game. And it is our job, and more importantly, our responsibility, to make sure that we're putting an effort into making sure you guys get what you've paid for. So, would we rotate people in and out so they can get some breaks? Yeah, absolutely. But the idea that we could just as a team take a big break just can't happen. We have too much that we'll need to do. All right, last question. Find a good one.
Okay. Ask us a good one, folks.
Because I definitely hear my voice going, guys.
Maybe some quick one in the meantime.
Sure.
Odolvik asks, will crafters be able to design a custom cornerstone or foundation stone that's unique to that crafter?
That would be lovely. The question is how to do it. If we do it by having a total unique texture, then that's just another texture we add multiplied by the number of crafters who want their own texture. On the other hand, if it's something that, like a decal system, that's different.
Y Sensei wants to know if healer classes will be able to buff allies as well as heal them.
Yeah, depending if they have buffs, of course. So yeah, one more, Max. I'm losing it.
All right. Really one more. Here we go.
Yep. Voice is going, people.
Lorgarn wants to know, what exactly happened with the old merch partner? Can I read about it somewhere?
No, it isn't all that terrible. There was a mistake with sweatshirts and what we had ordered and what was delivered, or what we had wanted. And to their credit, they made it right, and so I respect them for that. But that was an issue, and there's some other things, not huge. Like I said, I like the guys, and I think they did some things really, really well. No argument there. But the sweatshirt thing was disappointing, and again, the good news is they owned up to it, and they made it right. So I absolutely appreciate that, and they were great from that perspective. But there were also some little things, frankly, that based on our conversations, that they just didn't know about until they actually got to that point. Certainly we have backers from all over the world, and they were certainly not used to putting the kind of as many units in a short period out to as many people across the world as they did with us. So it was a good learning experience for them. It was a good learning experience for us. But we want to get it 100%, or as close to 100% right as we can this time. And if we do find another partner, it's one that really has to believe in the long term for us. I'm not interested in one or two offs. That just does not appeal to me. I want a partner who we can do not just one shirt or a couple shirts, but a range of products. All right, as you guys can tell, my voice is going. and I've got at least one, if not two more calls today, and one of them could be a long one. So, and a good one. I am going to sign off. I want to say, as always, thank you. It has been, again, a very, very good week here. And, Andrew's back. I forgot to tell them about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so let me just quickly touch on this. Andrew's back from the wedding and his honeymoon. The honeymoon, he says, was fabulous. He told me about his and Shannon's trip to the volcano in Hawaii, which sounded just awesome. And he's been jumping with both feet and hands back into work, including going over code samples and code tests for the new potential programmers. So that's really good. Yeah, it's great to have him back, and expect that it's going to be an interesting few months coming up. So that's it. And again, as always, we thank you for your support. Have a great weekend, all. Look for an email from me in the next couple hours if there's going to be a test this weekend.
And shameless newsletter plug.
And shameless newsletter plug, because we're doing a shameless newsletter. Yeah,
As
so,
always. All right.
well, you said shameless newsletter
You're
plug.
right.
Okay,
No,
so I'm
you know
plugging
what?
a shameless newsletter.
That's great. All
So,
right.
yeah, newsletter is going to be going out right after
It is
this.
called Unveiled.
It is called Unveiled, that's right. So, yeah, that's it. Again, have a great weekend, all.
See you later.